Somewhere in the oldest corners of the Pokémon world, evolution unfolds quietly, hidden behind rules the games never fully explain. Eevee waits in shadowed groves for moonlight or sun to decide its future. Inkay drifts upside down, responding to a world that must literally be inverted before it can change. Tyrogue trains without knowing that balance alone will determine what it becomes. These transformations exist in the space between mechanics and myth, where growth depends not just on strength, but on timing, place, and condition. Tonight, we drift through the mechanics, mysteries, and myths of evolution itself, the force that reshapes Pokémon across generations. And before we settle in, make sure to subscribe to never miss an upload. There are species in the Pokémon world that only evolve when trainers physically turn their gaming console completely upside down. Inkay, the small squid-like creature that drifts through shallow coastal waters, refuses to transform into Malamar unless the world itself flips during the exact moment it gains enough experience. The game cartridge registers the motion, sensing the gyroscope's shift, and only then does evolution trigger. This strange requirement mirrors Inkay's inverted body design and its upside-down floating behavior in the wild. Trainers who attempt to force evolution through conventional leveling find themselves stuck, watching Inkay reach higher and higher levels without change until they discover the hidden condition. The mechanic was introduced in Generation 6, part of a wave of experimental evolution methods that tied real-world player actions to in-game transformations. Malamar itself carries a sinister reputation in Pokédex lore, described as a manipulative creature that uses psychic waves to control the minds of others. The inversion required for its evolution reflects its twisted nature, a Pokémon born from literally flipping the natural order. Some players speculate that the upside-down requirement symbolizes a moral inversion as well, transforming an innocent Inkay into something darker and more dangerous. The transition happens in an instant, the screen flashing as Inkay's body reshapes into Malamar's larger, more menacing form. The evolution animation shows tentacles extending and eyes glowing with newfound power, a visual representation of crossing a threshold into something fundamentally different. In older games, before motion controls became standard, this evolution method would have been impossible to implement. Inkay's existence as a species depends entirely on the hardware capabilities of the Nintendo 3DS and later systems. Without the gyroscope, Inkay would have needed a completely different evolution trigger, perhaps an item or location-based method instead. This dependency on technology makes Malamar one of the most hardware-specific evolutions in the entire franchise, a creature whose very existence is tied to the console generation it debuted in. Players, returning to these games years later, often forget the upside-down requirement, leading to frustration and confusion as they search for answers online. Some evolution methods require trainers to level up their Pokémon in highly specific real-world inspired locations, places marked by unusual geological features or magnetic anomalies. Magneton, the floating cluster of 3 Magnemite, can only evolve into Magnezone when exposed to a special magnetic field generated by particular rocks or caves. In the Sinnoh region, Mount Coronet houses these magnetic zones, areas where the natural energy of the mountain creates conditions necessary for steel and electric type transformations. Trainers must physically bring their Magneton to these spots, leveling them up within range of the magnetic influence. The game checks the player's location during the level up, and only if they stand in the correct area does evolution proceed. This mechanic creates a sense of pilgrimage, forcing players to journey to specific landmarks to complete their Pokémon's transformation. Nosepass, the compass-faced rock type, follows the same rule, evolving into Probopass only when leveled near these magnetic zones. The lore explains this through the Pokemon's internal magnetic sensors, biological compasses that require external magnetic energy to trigger a full-body restructuring. Without the field's influence, Nosepass remains stuck in its original form, unable to access the power hidden within its genetic code. The magnetic requirement emphasizes the connection between Pokemon biology and environmental factors, suggesting that evolution is not purely internal, but depends on external stimuli as well. In later games, these location-based requirements were sometimes replaced with items, simplifying the process for players who no longer had access to the original maps. A Thunderstone can substitute for the magnetic field in some versions, allowing Magneton to evolve anywhere. This change reflects how evolution methods themselves evolve alongside the franchise, adapting to new hardware and player expectations. The shift from location to item represents a move toward convenience, but it also removes some of the environmental storytelling that made the original method feel grounded in the world's geography. Players who experienced the original location-based evolution often remember the journey to Mount Coronet as part of Magnezone's story, a narrative element that item-based evolution cannot replicate. Certain Pokemon species refuse to evolve unless the in-game weather matches specific atmospheric conditions during their level up. Sliggoo, the soft-bodied dragon type covered in glistening slime, only transforms into Goodra when rain or fog blankets the area. Trainers must wait for the weather to shift, either through random generation or by visiting regions where rain is more common. The game checks the current weather status at the moment Sliggoo gains its final level, and if the sky is clear, evolution fails. Sliggoo remains unchanged, forcing the player to either wait for weather to change or seek out areas with permanent rain conditions. This dependency on weather creates a layer of unpredictability, turning evolution into something that cannot be forced through sheer grinding alone. The lore behind Sliggoo's rain requirement ties into its biology as a moisture-dependent creature. Its body is described as needing constant hydration to survive, and the transformation into Goodra requires an excess of water to complete. Rain provides the necessary environmental moisture, allowing Sliggoo's cells to expand and harden into Goodra's tougher, more resilient form. Without rain, the evolution process cannot finish, leaving Sliggoo in a perpetual state of near transformation. This biological explanation gives the weather requirement a sense of scientific grounding, even within the fantasy setting of the Pokemon world. Players who understand the lore appreciate the mechanic as more than a gameplay gimmick, seeing it as a reflection of Sliggoo's ecology. In some games, rain can be triggered artificially through moves like Rain Dance, but the effect does not last long enough to guarantee Sliggoo's evolution unless timed perfectly. Trainers must carefully plan their battles, using Rain Dance to create a temporary window of opportunity during which Sliggoo can level up. The challenge adds a strategic element to evolution, rewarding players who understand the game's mechanics deeply enough to manipulate weather conditions. Some regions in the Pokemon world, like the rain-soaked forests of certain routes, have permanent rainy weather, turning them into natural evolution zones for Sliggoo. Players often travel to these areas specifically to complete the transformation, treating them as sacred spaces where dragons reach their final forms. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, we encounter Pokemon that refuse to evolve unless they know a very specific move at the exact moment they level up. Tangela, the vine-covered creature that resembles a walking bush, only evolves into Tangrowth if it knows the move the Ancient Power when it reaches the required level. If Tangela has forgotten Ancient Power or never learned it in the first place, evolution will not trigger no matter how many levels it gains. This move-based requirement creates a fragile evolution condition, one that can be accidentally broken if the player deletes the move to make room for something else. Trainers who unknowingly remove ancient power from Tangela's moveset find themselves stuck, unable to evolve their Pokémon until they reteach the move through special tutors or by leveling down and relearning it. The move ancient power itself carries thematic weight, described as a primordial energy that awakens dormant potential in certain species. Tangela's evolution into Tangrowth represents a return to an older, more powerful form, one that existed in ancient times before modern Tangela became common. The move acts as a genetic key, unlocking information stored deep within Tangela's DNA and allowing the creature to access its ancestral body. Without this key, the evolution pathway remains closed, no matter how strong Tangela becomes through regular leveling. This mechanic emphasizes the idea that power alone is not enough for transformation. Knowledge and heritage play equally important roles. Other Pokémon follow similar move-based evolution rules, each one requiring a different key move to unlock their next form. Piloswine evolves into Mamoswine only if it knows ancient power, sharing Tangela's reliance on primordial energy. Yanma transforms into Yanmega under the same condition, suggesting that ancient power serves as a universal unlocking mechanism for species with ancient lineages. The pattern implies that these Pokémon carry evolutionary potential inherited from long-extinct ancestors, and only by channeling that ancestral power can they complete their transformation. Trainers must actively seek out move tutors or level their Pokémon carefully to ensure they learn the required move before evolution becomes possible. The fragility of this method has led to countless player mistakes over the years. Casual players often delete ancient power without realizing its importance, prioritizing stronger or more useful moves in its place. Only later, when their Pokémon refuses to evolve, despite meeting the level requirement, do they discover the hidden condition. The frustration of realizing a simple move deletion has blocked evolution creates memorable moments, ones that teach players to research evolution methods before making permanent decisions. In some ways, these mistakes become part of the player's journey, lessons learned through trial and error that deepen their understanding of the game's systems. Trait evolution remains one of the oldest and most iconic methods in the entire franchise, introduced in the very first generation of games. Pokémon like Machoke, Graveler, Kadabra, and Haunter refuse to evolve through normal leveling, requiring instead that they be traded to another trainer before transformation occurs. The in-universe explanation describes this as the Pokémon reacting to the energy pulse of the trading system, their bodies scrambling and reassembling mid-transfer between devices. The electric signals that carry the Pokémon's data from one game cartridge to another trigger a genetic response, unlocking evolution pathways that remain dormant during the regular gameplay. This mechanic was designed to encourage social interaction between players, forcing them to connect with friends or strangers to complete their Pokédex. The trading requirement creates a barrier for solo players, particularly those without access to a second console or a willing trading partner. For years, certain Pokémon remained permanently unevolved in the collections of isolated players, their final forms locked behind a social wall. The mechanic also introduces trust issues, as trading requires temporarily giving up ownership of a Pokémon with the expectation that the other player will trade it back. Stories of trade scams and lost Pokémon circulate through player communities, cautionary tales about the risks of trusting strangers with valuable creatures. These social dynamics add a layer of complexity to trade evolution, turning it into more than just a mechanical requirement, but a test of community and cooperation. Some trade evolutions require the Pokémon to hold a specific item during the transfer, adding an extra layer of complexity to the process. Onyx only evolves into Steelix if it holds a metal coat while being traded, and Seadra transforms into Kingdra only when traded while holding a dragon scale. The item is consumed during the trade, absorbed into the Pokemon's body as part of the evolution process. This consumable nature means players must carefully plan their trades, ensuring they have the correct item before initiating the exchange. The combination of trade and item creates a two-step puzzle, one that requires both social cooperation and resource management to solve. The lore behind held item trade evolutions suggests that the item acts as a catalyst, providing raw materials or energy that the Pokemon's body needs to complete its transformation. The metal coat infuses Onyx with the steel needed to harden its rocky body into Steelix's metallic form. The dragon scale supplies Seadra with the genetic information necessary to unlock its dragon heritage and become Kingdra. These explanations frame evolution as a chemical or biological process, one that requires external resources to fuel the internal changes. Without the item, the trading energy alone is insufficient, leaving the Pokemon in a state of incomplete transformation. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at friendship-based evolution, a mechanic that turns emotional bonds into literal power-ups. Certain Pokemon species refuse to evolve unless their happiness level reaches a specific threshold, measuring the strength of the relationship between trainer and creature. Golbat transforms into Crobat only when it feels deeply loved and trusted, a reflection of the vampire bat shedding its predatory nature through companionship. Chansey evolves into Blissey under the same condition, its already nurturing personality reaching full bloom when surrounded by affection. The game tracks friendship through invisible points, gained by walking with the Pokemon, using it in battles, feeding it vitamins, and avoiding fainting or harsh treatment. This friendship requirement creates a slower, more organic evolution path compared to simple level grinding. Players cannot rush the process through endless battles or rare candies. They must invest time and care into their Pokemon, building trust through consistent positive interactions. The mechanic mirrors real-world relationships, emphasizing patience and attentiveness over brute force. Pokemon with low friendship refuse to evolve no matter how high their level climbs, staying in their base forms until the emotional bond strengthens enough to trigger transformation. This creates situations where players unknowingly carry high-level, unevolved Pokemon, unaware that lack of friendship is blocking their progress. Some friendship evolutions add additional conditions on top of the happiness requirement, creating multi-layered evolution puzzles. Eevee evolves into Espeon only during the day when friendship is high, and into Umbreon only at night under the same condition. The time of day mechanic adds a temporal element to the emotional bond, suggesting that Eevee's evolution is influenced not just by love, but by the specific moment when that love reaches its peak. Trainers must carefully manage both friendship and timing, ensuring their Eevee levels up during the correct window. Mistakes in timing lead to frustration, as players watch their Eevee remain unevolved despite maxed out friendship, simply because they leveled it at the wrong hour. The lore surrounding friendship evolution often emphasizes loyalty, trust, and mutual respect in Pokédex entries. Crobat is described as a Pokemon that only exists because its pre-evolution learned to care for others, transforming selfishness into cooperation. Blissey is portrayed as the ultimate caretaker, a creature whose entire existence revolves around healing and nurturing those around it. These narratives frame evolution as a spiritual or emotional journey, not just a physical one, suggesting that a Pokemon's inner state matters as much as its external power. The mechanic reinforces the series' recurring theme of partnership between humans and Pokémon, treating evolution as a reward for building genuine connections. Evolution stones represent one of the most versatile transformation methods, capable of triggering evolution at any level, even level 1. These stones emit a specific type of radiation that reacts with dormant DNA segments in compatible Pokémon species. A Firestone causes Vulpix to evolve into Ninetales by activating genes responsible for tail multiplication and mystical flame control. A Water Stone transforms Poliwhirl into Poliwrath by unlocking muscle development pathways that turn the amphibian into a powerful fighter. The stones are consumed upon use, their energy fully absorbed into the Pokémon's body during the transformation. This makes them valuable and finite resources, items that players must use strategically rather than hoard indefinitely. The instant nature of stone evolution allows for unusual scenarios where baby Pokémon can skip their natural growth cycle entirely. Pikachu can become Raichu at level 1 if exposed to a Thunderstone immediately after hatching, bypassing the gradual power increase that comes from leveling. This creates a trade-off between immediate strength and long-term potential, as Pokémon that evolve early often miss out on moves they would have learned in their base form. Players must decide whether to evolve their Pokémon quickly for a power boost or delay evolution to access a better move pool. The choice adds strategic depth to team building, forcing players to weigh short-term gains against long-term benefits. Some Pokémon lines offer multiple stone-based evolution options, creating branching paths where a single base form can become several completely different final forms. Eevee stands as the most famous example, capable of evolving into Vaporeon with a Water Stone, Jolteon with a Thunderstone, or Flareon with a Fire Stone. Each evolution changes not just Eevee's appearance, but its entire stat distribution, typing, and role in battle. Vaporeon becomes a bulky water tank, Jolteon transforms into a glass cannon, speed demon, and Flareon shifts into a physical attacker with high defense. The choice is permanent and irreversible, meaning players must commit to a specific evolution path without being able to change their mind later. This branching evolution design reflects the idea of fate and choice, with Eevee's unstable genetic code allowing it to adapt to different environmental pressures. The stones do not force a specific outcome, but rather provide the catalyst for Eevee's DNA to express one of many latent forms. The mechanic encourages players to think carefully about team composition and strategy, turning evolution into a meaningful decision rather than an automatic process. Some players catch multiple Eevees to experience all the different evolution paths, treating each one as a separate journey rather than trying to find a single best evolution. In earlier games, certain stone evolutions required finding rare items hidden in specific locations rather than purchasing them from shops. The Moonstone, used to evolve Clefairy into Clefable and Nidorino into Nidoking, could only be found in caves or given as rewards for completing specific challenges. This scarcity added weight to the decision of when and on whom to use the stone, as wasting it on the wrong Pokémon could lock players out of another evolution entirely. Later generations made stones more accessible through repeatable purchase options, reducing the anxiety around using them, but also diminishing the sense of resource management that made early game stone evolutions feel significant. If you're still awake halfway through, maybe subscribe before you drift off and tell me what time it is where you're watching from. Stat-based evolution introduces a fascinating layer of complexity where a Pokémon's growth pattern determines its final form. Tyrogue, the baby fighting type that appears fragile and underdeveloped, splits into 3 completely different evolutions depending on which stat is higher when it reaches level 20. If its attack stat exceeds defense, Tyrogue becomes Hitmonlee, the kicking specialist with elongated legs built for devastating strikes. If defense is higher, it transforms into Hitmonchan, the punching expert with padded fists and a boxer's stance. If attack and defense are perfectly equal, a rare third option emerges, Hitmontop, the spinning fighter that balances offense and defense in equal measure. This evolution system forces players to actively manage Tyrogue's stat growth through careful training and vitamin distribution. A single protein or iron vitamin can shift the balance, tipping Tyrogue toward one evolution over another. Players who want a specific outcome must plan ahead, tracking stats after every level and adjusting their training regimen accordingly. The mechanic turns evolution into a deliberate process rather than a passive one, rewarding players who understand the underlying mathematics of stat growth. Casual players often end up with evolutions they did not intend, surprised when their Tyrogue transforms into Hitmonchan instead of the Hitmonlee they were hoping for. The stat-based mechanic reflects real-world biological concepts where environmental pressures shape development. Tyrogue's body adapts to the type of training it receives, building muscle mass in whichever area receives the most attention. A Tyrogue that practices kicks and leg strength naturally develops into Hitmonlee, while one that focuses on upper body conditioning becomes a Hitmonchan. The equal stat condition for Hitmontop suggests a balanced training approach, one that refuses to favor any single aspect of combat. This creates a narrative around Tyrogue's evolution, framing it as a consequence of the trainer's choices, rather than a predetermined genetic path. Other Pokémon follow similar stat-based rules, but with different conditions. Wurmple's evolution into either Silcoon or Cascoon is determined by a hidden personality value assigned when the Pokémon is generated, making it impossible for players to control the outcome. The personality value remains invisible throughout gameplay, only revealing itself when Wurmple reaches level 7 and evolves. Players cannot influence which evolution they receive through training or items, turning Wurmple's transformation into a gamble. This randomness frustrates completionists who want to obtain both evolutions, forcing them to catch and evolve multiple Wurmple until they get the one they need. The Wurmple mechanic mimics natural genetic variation, where identical twins raised in identical environments can still develop differently due to inherent biological differences. Silcoon and Cascoon look similar at first glance, both being cocoon stage Pokémon, but they eventually evolve into vastly different final forms. Silcoon becomes Beautifly, a delicate butterfly with elegant wings and special attack prowess. Cascoon transforms into Dustox, a poisonous moth with bulkier stats and defensive capabilities. The divergence emphasizes the idea that evolution is not always predictable, even when environmental factors remain constant. Stat-based evolution also appears in branching lines where multiple final forms exist, but the triggering condition is more transparent. Eevee's evolution into Espeon or Umbreon depends on friendship, but also on time of day, creating a condition where both emotional bond and temporal factors must align. The stat-based nature comes from friendship points, an invisible stat that must reach a certain threshold before evolution triggers. Players who level up Eevee during the day with high friendship receive Espeon, a psychic type that embodies clarity and mental focus. Those who evolve at night get Umbreon, a dark type that represents mystery and shadow. The time restriction adds a layer of planning, as players must ensure they level up during the correct window to avoid unwanted outcomes. Evolution through specific team composition requirements introduces a social element to transformation, where the presence of other Pokémon in the party influences an individual's growth. Pancham, the small panda Pokémon that practices martial arts with a leaf in its mouth, refuses to evolve into Pangoro unless a Dark-type Pokémon is present in the player's active team. The game checks party composition at the moment Pancham reaches level 32, and if no Dark-type is found, evolution fails. Pancham remains in its playful, innocent form, unable to access the rougher, more aggressive personality that Pangoro represents. The requirement suggests that Pancham learns from the Dark-type's influence, absorbing behavioral traits and attitudes that allow it to mature into a tougher fighter. This mechanic creates narrative implications about how Pokémon learn and grow through observation and companionship. Pancham's evolution is not just a physical transformation, but a psychological one, requiring exposure to a specific type of personality before it can adopt that mindset itself. The Dark type acts as a mentor or role model, teaching Pancham the aggressive confidence needed to become Pangoro. Without this influence, Pancham's evolution remains incomplete, stuck in a perpetual state of youthful inexperience. Players must deliberately include a Dark type in their team, even if they have no intention of using it in battle, just to satisfy Pancham's evolution condition. The team composition mechanic appears rarely in the franchise, making it one of the more unusual evolution methods. Its implementation requires players to think beyond individual Pokémon and consider their entire party as an ecosystem where different species influence each other's development. This holistic approach to team building mirrors real-world social learning, where individuals change based on the company they keep. Pancham's requirement is specific enough to be challenging, but not so obscure that it becomes frustrating, striking a balance between mechanical complexity and accessibility. Some players speculate that future games might introduce more team-based evolution conditions, expanding on the idea that Pokémon grow through interaction with their companions. Imagine a Pokémon that only evolves if the party contains a specific gender ratio, or one that requires a full team of the same type to trigger transformation. These hypothetical conditions would deepen the strategic layer of team building, turning party composition into a puzzle that affects not just battle performance but also evolution potential. While no such mechanics exist yet, Pancham's evolution proves that the franchise is willing to experiment with unconventional triggers. Evolution methods shift and change across different game generations, reflecting both technological advancements and design philosophy changes. Leafeon and Glaceon originally required players to level up Eevee near a moss rock or ice rock, physical landmarks found in specific locations on the overworld map. Trainers had to journey to Eterna Forest or Route 2 and 17 to access these evolution sites, treating the transformation as a geographical pilgrimage. The rocks emitted special energies that reacted with Eevee's unstable DNA, guiding it toward grass or ice typing, depending on the environment. This location-based method tied evolution to world exploration, encouraging players to revisit areas they might otherwise ignore. Later games replaced the rock requirement with evolution stones, introducing the Leaf Stone and Ice Stone as portable alternatives to the environmental method. Players could now evolve Eevee into Leafeon or Glaceon anywhere without needing to travel to specific maps. This change prioritized convenience over environmental storytelling, reflecting a broader trend in the franchise towards streamlining mechanics and reducing barriers to completion. While the new method made evolution more accessible, it also removed the narrative weight of seeking out special locations, turning Leafeon and Glaceon into generic stone evolutions rather than geographically unique transformations. The shift from location to item mirrors real-world technological progress, where physical proximity becomes less important as tools become more portable and versatile. Early Pokémon games emphasized explorations and discovery, hiding evolution methods in obscure corners of the map to reward thorough players. Modern games prioritize efficiency and player agency, allowing trainers to control when and where evolution happens without external constraints. This design evolution reflects changing player expectations as audiences become less tolerant of inconvenience and more focused on customization and control. Some evolution methods remain locked to specific regions or game versions, creating version-exclusive transformations that cannot be replicated elsewhere. Regional forms like Alolan Vulpix and Galarian Ponyta have unique evolution paths that only exist within their native regions. Alolan Vulpix evolves into Alolan Ninetales using an Ice Stone, while standard Vulpix uses a Fire Stone, creating parallel evolution paths for the same base species. The regional difference emphasizes how environmental adaptation shapes evolution, with Alolan Vulpix developing ice typing to survive in snowy climates, while its Cantonian counterpart retains fire typing suited to volcanic regions. These regional variants complicate the evolution system, introducing branching paths that depend not on player choice, but on which game version or region the Pokémon originates from. A Vulpix caught in Kanto will always evolve into Fire-type Ninetales, while one from Alola becomes Ice-type Ninetales, regardless of where the evolution actually occurs. The mechanic locks certain forms behind regional availability, forcing players to trade across versions or games to complete their collection. This version exclusivity drives social interaction and trading, maintaining the franchise's long-standing emphasis on multiplayer connectivity. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, we encounter the strange world of baby Pokémon, creatures that exist only because of breeding mechanics and cannot be found in the wild. Pichu, Cleffa, Igglybuff, and others appear when players breed their evolved forms at daycare centers, producing eggs that hatch into weaker, pre-evolved versions. These babies must then be raised through friendship-based evolution to reach their more familiar forms, adding an extra evolutionary step to lines that originally started with Pikachu or Clefairy. The introduction of baby Pokémon retroactively changed established evolution chains, inserting new ace forms into lines that had existed for years without them. The baby mechanic complicates Pokédex completion, as these Pokémon cannot be encountered through normal gameplay and require deliberate breeding efforts to obtain. Players must catch evolved forms, place them in daycare, wait for eggs to generate, and then hatch those eggs to access the baby stage. This multi-step process makes baby Pokémon some of the rarest entries in the Pokédex, not because they are legendary or mythical, but because they exist outside the normal encounter system. The mechanic encourages players to engage with breeding, a feature that adds depth to endgame content, but remains optional for those focused solely on story progression. Lore-wise, baby Pokémon are often described as playful, innocent, and underdeveloped versions of their evolved forms. Pichu is portrayed as clumsy and unable to control its electric charge, frequently shocking itself by accident. Cleffa is depicted as stargazing and following meteor showers, its fascination with space foreshadowing Clefairy's connection to the moon. These characterizations frame baby Pokémon as learners, creatures still discovering their abilities and place in the world. Their evolution through friendship reflects a coming-of-age narrative, where trust and companionship guide them toward maturity. Some baby Pokémon require special items to be held during breeding to even produce their eggs, adding another layer of complexity to their obtainment. Munchlax only appears when Snorlax breeds while holding a full incense, and Azurill requires a sea incense on Marill or Azumarill. Without these incenses, the eggs produce the evolved form instead, skipping the baby stage entirely. This conditional breeding mechanic creates a puzzle where players must understand not just how to breed, but also which specific items enable baby production. Casual players often miss these requirements entirely, never encountering certain baby Pokémon unless they research breeding mechanics online. The existence of baby Pokémon raises philosophical questions about what constitutes a true base form in an evolution line. Is Pikachu the base, or is Pichu the actual starting point? The answer depends on whether you prioritize wild encounter availability or biological development. From a gameplay perspective, Pikachu functions as the base form since it can be caught directly, but from a lore perspective, Pichu represents the true beginning of the evolutionary line. This ambiguity reflects the franchise's willingness to retcon and expand its own systems, adding complexity even to foundational species like Pikachu. Mega Evolution introduces a temporary, battle-only transformation that pushes certain Pokémon beyond their normal evolutionary limits. Unlike regular evolution, Mega Evolution requires a strong bond between trainer and Pokémon, a specific held item called a Mega Stone, and a keystone worn by the trainer. When all three conditions align during battle, the Pokémon undergoes a radical transformation, gaining new abilities, stat boosts, and sometimes even type changes. The process is described in the lore as intense and even painful, with some Pokédex entries suggesting that bones snap open or spikes tear through skin as the megaform emerges. This darker interpretation frames Mega Evolution as a dangerous power-up, one that trades the Pokémon's comfort for temporary strength. Certain Mega Evolution entries carry disturbing implications about the toll this transformation takes on the Pokémon's body and mind. Mega Kangaskhan is described as the baby in its pouch, growing large enough to fight alongside its parent. But the strain of this unnatural growth is implied to be harmful. Mega Aerodactyl gains spikes that pierce through its own flesh, and its temperament becomes more violent and uncontrollable. These descriptions suggest that Mega Evolution is not a natural process, but an artificial forcing of power that comes with serious consequences. Some entries even hint that repeated Mega Evolution shortens the Pokémon's lifespan, trading years of life for brief moments of overwhelming strength. The mechanic was introduced in Generation 6 as a way to revitalize older Pokémon by giving them competitive viability without adding permanent new evolutions. Pokémon like Mawile, Sableye, and Medicham received megaforms that drastically improved their stats and abilities, making them viable in high-level play for the first time. This design approach allowed the developers to experiment with extreme power boosts without committing to permanent changes that might unbalance the metagame. Mega Evolution exists only during battle and reverts immediately afterward, ensuring that the power-up remains a tactical choice rather than a permanent advantage. Players must collect specific Mega Stones for each Pokémon capable of Mega Evolution, with stones scattered across different regions and often hidden behind post-game challenges. A player might have a Charizard, but no Charizardite, rendering Mega Evolution impossible until they find or earn the correct stone. This scarcity creates a progression system within Mega Evolution itself, where players gradually unlock more options as they explore and complete challenges. The stones are version exclusive in some games, forcing players to trade across versions to obtain the full collection. This exclusivity maintains the franchise's emphasis on social connectivity, ensuring that no single player can access every Mega Evolution without external help. The bond requirement for Mega Evolution mirrors the friendship mechanic, but operates on a conceptual rather than mechanical level. The game does not track a hidden friendship stat for Mega Evolution. Instead, the lore describes an emotional resonance between trainer and Pokémon that allows them to synchronize during battle. This narrative framing elevates Mega Evolution beyond a simple power-up, treating it as the ultimate expression of partnership and trust. The transformation sequence in the anime and games emphasizes this connection, showing trainer and Pokémon glowing with shared energy before the Megaform manifests. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how evolution affects movesets and battle roles. Some Pokémon gain access to entirely new move types after evolving, fundamentally changing their strategic function. Magikarp, infamous for its uselessness in battle, transforms into Gyarados and gains access to powerful water, dragon, and dark-type moves that were completely unavailable in its base form. The evolution represents a total role shift from a passive splash spammer to a dangerous offensive sweeper capable of steamrolling entire teams. This dramatic change emphasizes the transformative power of evolution, showing how a single level up can rewrite a Pokémon's entire identity. Other evolution lines flip stat distributions entirely, changing fast, fragile Pokémon into slow tanks or vice versa. Scyther, a speedy bug and flying type with high attack and agility, evolves into Scizor and loses its flying typing in favor of Steel. The evolution drops Scyther's speed significantly, but boosts its defense and gains a powerful Steel typing that resists many common attacks. Players who evolve Scyther expecting a faster version of the same Pokémon find themselves surprised by the complete playstyle shift. This forces re-evaluation of team strategy, as Scizor fills a completely different role than Scyther, despite coming from the same evolutionary line. Some evolutions maintain the same typing, but redistribute stats so dramatically that the Pokémon's function changes entirely. Shellder evolves into Cloyster and shifts from a moderately balanced water type into an extreme physical defense wall with one of the highest defense stats in the game. The evolution transforms a Shellder from a mediocre mid-tier Pokémon into a specialized defensive pivot capable of tanking physical hits that would obliterate most other species. This stat redistribution rewards players who understand type matchups and team roles, allowing them to fill specific niches with evolved Pokémon that excel in narrow but powerful ways. Branch evolutions create divergent paths where a single base form can become multiple final forms with completely different stats, types, and abilities. Poliwhirl can evolve into Poliwrath with a Water Stone, becoming a water and fighting type with balanced offensive stats, or it can evolve into Politoed when traded holding a King's Rock, transforming into a pure water type with supportive abilities. The choice between Poliwrath and Politoed represents a fundamental decision about team strategy, as the two forms serve entirely different purposes. Poliwrath excels at dealing damage and taking hits, while Politoed functions as a weather setter and support Pokémon in competitive play. Slowpoke presents another branching evolution, capable of becoming Slowbro when leveled up, or Slowking when traded, holding a King's Rock. Both evolutions remain water and psychic types, but their stat distributions differ enough to create distinct roles. Slowbro focuses on physical defense, acting as a wall that can absorb hits and retaliate with special attacks. Slowking shifts towards special defense and support, providing team utility through moves like Trick Room and status effects. The shared typing but divergent stats show how evolution can specialize a Pokémon for specific tasks while maintaining thematic consistency. These branching paths force players to make irreversible decisions, as once a Pokémon evolves, it cannot change to the alternate form. A Poliwhirl evolved into Poliwrath can never become Politoed, and vice versa. This permanence adds weight to evolution choices, encouraging players to research and plan before committing to a specific path. Some players catch multiple copies of the base form to experience all evolutions, treating each one as a separate journey rather than trying to optimize a single specimen. This approach turns evolution into a collection challenge, where completing the Pokédex requires exploring every possible branch. Environmental evolution methods create region-specific transformations tied to unique geographical features. Magneton evolves into Magnezone only when leveled in areas with strong magnetic fields, like Mount Coronet in Sinnoh or Chargestone Cave in Unova. These locations serve as natural evolution zones, places where the environment itself provides the catalyst for transformation. Players must physically travel to these sites, integrating evolution into the exploration experience rather than treating it as a purely mechanical process. The journey to these locations becomes part of the evolution narrative, framing Magnezone as a Pokémon that can only exist in places where natural magnetic energy reaches critical levels. Nosepass follows a similar rule, evolving in a Probopass only near magnetic fields. The lore describes Nosepass as having an internal compass that requires external magnetic energy to fully activate, allowing it to develop the satellite-like nose features that define Probopass. Without this energy, Nosepass remains stuck in its original form, unable to complete the transformation. The mechanic ties Probopass directly to specific environments, suggesting that not all Pokémon can evolve anywhere, and that some species depend on rare natural conditions to reach their full potential. Leafeon and Glaceon originally required proximity to moss rocks and ice rocks, environmental features found in specific forests and caves. Trainers had to bring Eevee to these locations and level it up within range of the rock's influence. The rocks emitted special energies that reacted with Eevee's DNA, guiding it toward grass or ice typing depending on which rock was nearby. This environmental dependency created a sense of place, making certain evolutions feel geographically grounded in the world. Players who stumbled upon these rocks without prior knowledge experienced spontaneous evolutions, discovering new forms through exploration rather than research. Later games replaced many environmental evolution methods with items, simplifying the process but removing the geographical storytelling. The introduction of leaf stones and ice stones allowed players to evolve Eevee into Leafeon or Glaceon anywhere, eliminating the need to seek out specific locations. This change prioritized convenience and accessibility, reflecting a shift in game design toward reducing friction and streamlining progression. While the new method made evolution easier, it also diminished the sense of discovery that came from finding hidden evolution sites in the wild. Some modern games reintroduce environmental evolution through regional variants and alternate forms. Galarian Yamask evolves into Runerigus only if it takes at least 49 points of damage in battle, and then passes under a specific stone archway in the Dusty Bowl area. This bizarre requirement combines health management, location awareness, and precise timing, creating one of the most convoluted evolution methods in the franchise. Players who evolve Galarian Yamask without knowing the requirement often find themselves stuck, unable to trigger evolution, no matter how many battles they fight. The obscurity of the method has led to widespread confusion and reliance on online guides to complete the evolution. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, we encounter the concept of single-stage Pokémon, species that never evolve and exist as complete forms from the moment they appear. Generation 3 introduced an unusually high number of these standalone creatures breaking from the pattern of multi-stage evolution lines that defined earlier generations. Pokémon like Absol, Torkoal, Sableye, and Mawile remain in a single form throughout their entire lifespan, never growing stronger through evolution. This design choice reflects a different philosophy, treating these Pokémon as already complete rather than works in progress waiting to transform. Single-stage Pokémon are often given higher basis stats or unique abilities to compensate for their lack of evolution. Absol, a dark type known for predicting disasters, has strong offensive stats and access to powerful moves that allow it to compete with fully evolved Pokémon despite never evolving itself. Torkoal, a fire-breathing tortoise, has high defense and access to weather-setting abilities that make it viable in specific team compositions. These compensatory mechanics ensure that single-stage Pokémon remain relevant in competitive play, filling niches that might otherwise be occupied by final-stage evolutions. The lore often frames single-stage Pokémon as ancient or primordial beings that do not need to evolve because they have already reached perfection. Relicanth, a prehistoric fish that has remained unchanged for millions of years, is described as a living fossil that evolution forgot. Its single-stage status reflects its role as a relic of the past, a species so well adapted to its environment that further change would be unnecessary. This narrative positioning gives single-stage Pokémon a sense of timelessness, treating them as endpoints of evolutionary development rather than starting points. Mythical and legendary Pokémon almost universally exist as single-stage creatures, emphasizing their status as already complete and powerful. Pokémon like Mew, Celebi, Jirachi, and Arceus never evolve, reinforcing their mythological roles as gods, guardians, or cosmic entities. The lack of evolution underscores their perfection and uniqueness, suggesting that these beings exist outside the normal rules of growth and transformation. Their single-stage status sets them apart from common Pokémon, marking them as fundamentally different in both power and narrative significance. Some single-stage Pokémon eventually receive pre-evolutions or evolutions in later generations, retroactively changing their status. Mawile and Sableye, originally single-stage, later gained mega evolutions that provided temporary power boosts during battle. While mega evolution does not count as a traditional evolution, it offers a form of transformation that allows these Pokémon to access higher power levels when needed. This edition shows how the franchise continues to revisit and expand older Pokémon, breathing new life into species that might otherwise be forgotten. The decision to leave certain Pokémon as single-stage reflects a balance between nostalgia and design innovation. Some species are beloved precisely because they remain unchanged, their iconic designs and roles cemented in player memory. Adding evolutions to these Pokémon risks diluting their identity, transforming familiar favorites into stepping stones toward new forms. By keeping them single-stage, the developers preserve their uniqueness and prevent them from becoming obsolete as earlier stages in longer evolution chains. Fossil Pokémon occupy a unique space in the evolution system, representing ancient species that have been extinct for millions of years. These creatures are revived from fossils found in specific locations, brought back to life through scientific processes that restore their physical forms. Pokémon like Kabuto, Omanite, Aerodactyl, and Lilape function as living snapshots of prehistoric ecosystems, offering glimpses into what the Pokémon world looked like long before human civilization emerged. Their existence blurs the line between paleontology and fantasy, treating evolution as both a biological process and a narrative device. Kabuto is described in the Pokédex as having remained unchanged for for approximately 300 million years, making it one of the oldest species still recognizable in its ancient form. The entry frames Kabuto as a living fossil, a creature that evolution essentially bypassed because it was already perfectly adapted to its environment. Its evolution into Kabutops represents a continuation of that ancient lineage, showing how the species eventually adapted to land-based hunting after spending eons in the ocean. The Pokédex describes Kabutops as beginning to develop features suited for terrestrial life, but going extinct before fully completing that transition. Anorith, another fossil Pokémon, is described as an ancestor of modern bug types, linking ancient species to the common insects seen throughout the Pokémon world. The Pokédex entries suggest that Anorith's evolutionary descendants include Pokémon like Scyther, Pinsir, and Heracross, creatures that share anatomical similarities with their ancient forebear. This genealogical connection creates an implied evolutionary tree, mapping how prehistoric species gave rise to modern forms over millions of years. The lore treats fossil Pokémon as missing links, species that connect the distant past to the present. Wailmer, while not a fossil Pokémon itself, is described in the Pokédex as being descended from a land-dwelling ancestor. This detail implies that Wailmer's evolutionary line underwent a reverse transition from land to sea, adapting to aquatic life after spending generations on solid ground. The concept mirrors real-world evolutionary history, where cetaceans like whales and dolphins descended from terrestrial mammals that returned to the ocean. This biological grounding gives Wailmer's lore a sense of scientific plausibility, even within the fantasy setting of Pokémon. Fossil Pokémon often serve as early branches in fan-created evolutionary trees, representing ancient offshoots that diverged from the main line of Pokémon development. These trees map entire type families, showing how fire, water, dragon, and other types might have evolved from common ancestors. Traits like internal flame sacs and fire types are interpreted as convergent evolution, where different species independently developed similar solutions to the same environmental challenge. This speculative biology adds depth to the Pokémon world, treating it as a functioning ecosystem with its own natural history. Regional variants complicate the evolutionary picture further, introducing alternate forms that diverge from the original species based on environmental adaptation. Alolan Vulpix, for example, evolved ice typing after migrating to snowy mountain regions, while Cantonian Vulpix retained fire typing suited to volcanic habitats. These variants represent evolutionary divergence in real time, showing how the same base species can develop radically different traits when exposed to different climates. The existence of regional forms suggests that evolution in the Pokémon world operates on both short-term and long-term scales, with species adapting to new environments within relatively recent history. Galarian Ponyta exemplifies this regional divergence, gaining psychic typing and a pastel color scheme distinct from Cantonian Ponyta's fire typing and fiery mane. The Pokédex explains this change through exposure to unique energy sources in the Galar region's forests, suggesting that environmental factors directly influence evolutionary outcomes. Regional variants often receive entirely new evolutions that the original form cannot access, further splitting the evolutionary line. Galarian Ponyta evolves into Galarian Rapidash, a psychic and fairy type, while Cantonian Ponyta evolves into a pure fire type Rapidash. These parallel evolution paths create alternate timelines within the same species, treating regional variants as distinct evolutionary experiments. Paradox Pokémon push this concept to the extreme, presenting ancient and futuristic versions of known species as if they were alternate evolutionary endpoints. These creatures exist in a state of temporal ambiguity, appearing as either prehistoric ancestors or far future descendants, depending on the game version. The lore treats them as speculative evolutions, showing what a species might become if pushed in radically different directions by time and circumstance. This narrative framing allows the developers to explore what-if scenarios, creating forms that would be impossible under normal evolutionary constraints. The existence of these alternate forms makes the Pokémon world feel layered and historically rich, as if every species carries the potential for multiple evolutionary paths depending on external pressures. Regional variants, paradox forms, and fossil revivals all contribute to a sense of deep time, suggesting that the Pokémon seen in the games represent only a snapshot of a much longer and more complex evolutionary history. This world-building approach treats evolution as an ongoing process rather than a fixed system, emphasizing change and adaptation over stasis. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how evolution interacts with game mechanics and player expectations. Certain Pokémon evolve shockingly early, reaching their final forms at levels as low as 7 or 10. Caterpie evolves into Metapod at level 7 and then into Butterfree at level 10, completing its entire life cycle within the first hour of gameplay. This rapid evolution mirrors real-world insect metamorphosis, where larvae transform into adults within short time frames. The mechanic teaches new players how evolution works, providing immediate feedback and gratification for their efforts. Other species take far longer to reach their final forms, with late-game dragons and pseudo-legendaries refusing to evolve until level 50 or higher. Dragonite, one of the most iconic dragon types, does not appear until Dragonair reaches level 55, making it a long-term investment that requires patience and dedication. Garchomp, Salamence, and Metagross follow similar patterns, forcing players to carry weak or mediocre mid-stage forms through dozens of levels before unlocking their full potential. This delayed gratification creates a sense of accomplishment when the evolution finally occurs, rewarding players who commit to raising difficult Pokémon. The contrast between early and late evolution reflects different design philosophies within the same game. Early evolving Pokémon, like Pidgey and Rattata, provide quick power spikes that help players progress through the early game, while late evolving Pokémon like Larvitar and Gible offer in-game strength at the cost of lengthy training periods. This balance ensures that every stage of the game features meaningful progression, preventing players from front-loading all their power early or backloading it to the end game. Bug-type evolution lines often follow the fast evolution model, mirroring real insect life cycles where metamorphosis happens quickly. Weedle evolves into Kakuna at level 7 and then into Beedrill at level 10, completing the caterpillar to wasp transformation in just a few levels. Scatterbug evolves into Spupa at level 9 and then into Vivium at level 12, reflecting the brief larval and pupal stages of real butterflies and moths. These rapid transformations make bug types accessible and rewarding for new players, offering fully evolved Pokémon early in the adventure. Some bug lines serve as tutorials for the evolution mechanic itself, teaching players how transformation works through immediate examples. The early roots of most Pokémon games feature bug types that evolve quickly, ensuring that players encounter evolution within the first few hours of play. This design choice reinforces the importance of evolution as a core mechanic, making it one of the first major systems players interact with. The simplicity of bug-type evolution lines makes them ideal teaching tools, providing clear cause and effect relationships that help players understand how leveling and transformation interact. Certain evolution lines have no level-based component at all, relying entirely on friendship, trade, items, or other conditions. Phoebus, for example, evolves into melodic only when its beauty stat is maxed out through feeding it specific Pokeblocks or Poffins, then leveling it up. This multi-step process requires players to engage with the game's contest mechanics, creating a cross-system evolution method that ties battle progression to side activities. The beauty requirement adds a layer of complexity, forcing players to understand Pokeblock creation and stat manipulation before they can complete the evolution. Later games simplified Phoebus's evolution, allowing it to transform into melodic when traded while holding a prism scale. This change removed the beauty stat requirement, streamlining the process for players who prefer not to engage with contest mechanics. The shift reflects a broader trend toward making evolution more accessible, reducing obscure or convoluted requirements in favor of straightforward, item-based methods. While the new approach improves accessibility, it also removes some of the challenge and uniqueness that made Melodic's evolution memorable in earlier games. Evolution methods themselves evolve alongside the franchise, adapting to new hardware, design philosophies, and player feedback. What begins as a location-based requirement in one generation might become an item-based trigger in the next, reflecting the developer's willingness to revisit and refine established systems. This iterative design process ensures that evolution remains a dynamic mechanic rather than a static rule set, allowing the franchise to experiment with new ideas while maintaining core functionality. Ghost and Psychic's Pokémon sometimes carry lore that implies they were once human or formed from human spirits. Yamask, for example, is described as carrying a mask that resembles its face from when it was human, suggesting that it is the reanimated spirit of a deceased person. The Pokédex entry frames Yamask as a tragic figure, a being that remembers its past life but can never return to it. Its evolution into Cofagrigus reinforces this theme, transforming the sorrowful spirit into a mummified guardian that traps intruders in its coffin-like body. Phantump and Trevenant follow a similar pattern, with Phantump described as the spirit of a child who died lost in the Bistus forest. The stump it inhabits becomes part of its body, merging the ghost with the natural world. Trevenant, Phantump's evolution, is portrayed as a forest protector that punishes those who harm trees, embodying the vengeful aspect of nature spirits. These entries blend ghost story tropes with Pokémon lore, creating creatures that exist on the boundary between life and death. Honedge, Doublade, and Aegislash are described as sentient swords possessed by human souls. The Pokédex warns that grabbing Honedge's hilt allows the sword to drain the wielder's life force, turning a seemingly useful weapon into a deadly trap. Doublade amplifies this danger by splitting into two blades, doubling the risk to anyone who tries to use it. Aegislash, the final evolution, combines sword and shield forms, representing both offense and defense, powered by the same trapped soul. The lore frames these Pokémon as cursed objects, artifacts that contain human spirits twisted into violent guardians. Frostless is described as the spirit of a woman who died lost in a snowstorm, her frozen corpse becoming the body of the Pokémon. The Pokédex entries portray Frostless as targeting handsome men, freezing them, and adding them to a collection of ice sculptures. This sinister behavior frames Froslas as a predatory spirit, one that uses its beauty and ghostly nature to lure victims to their doom. The evolution from Snorant to Froslas requires a female Snorant and a Dawnstone, creating a gender-specific evolution path that reinforces the gendered nature of the Frostless mythology. These dark evolution stories add depth and maturity to the Pokémon world, treating certain species as genuinely dangerous rather than cute companions. The transformation from human to Pokémon represents a loss of identity and humanity, a descent into something fundamentally other. Players who read these Pokédex entries encounter a side of the franchise that contrasts sharply with the cheerful surface-level presentation, revealing hidden horrors beneath the bright colors and friendly battles. Mega Evolution, as described in certain Pokédex entries, carries disturbing physical and psychological consequences. Mega Salamence is said to melt into a streamlined flying form, with the excess mass liquefying and dripping away during transformation. The entry describes this as painful, implying that the Pokémon suffers during the brief moments it spends in Mega form. Mega Sharpedo grows spikes so sharp that they pierce through its own skin, and its aggression increases to the point where it attacks even its trainer if not carefully controlled. Mega Tyranitar's entry states that its armor becomes so heavy that it crushes its own skeleton, forcing it to rely on raw power to move despite the internal damage. Mega Aerodactyl grows additional spikes that tear through its flesh, and its temperament becomes so violent that it loses all sense of reason. These descriptions frame Mega Evolution as a dangerous biohack, a forced transformation that grants it immense power at the cost of the Pokémon's well-being. Some entries even suggest that repeated Mega Evolution shortens the Pokémon's lifespan, trading years of life for brief bursts of overwhelming strength. The darker implications of Mega Evolution raise ethical questions about the relationship between trainers and Pokémon. Is it justified to force a creature into a painful transformation just to win battles? Do the temporary stat boosts outweigh the long-term harm inflicted on the Pokémon's body? These questions remain largely unexplored in the games themselves, but the Pokédex entries provide enough hints to make thoughtful players uncomfortable. The mechanic becomes less a celebration of bond and trust, and more a cautionary tale about pushing evolution too far. Some Pokémon actively resist or reject evolution, either through narrative framing or player choice. Ash's Pikachu in the anime famously refuses to evolve into Raichu, valuing its current identity over increased power. This decision emphasizes that evolution is not always necessary or desirable, suggesting that strength can be found in accepting one's current form rather than constantly seeking transformation. The anime uses this narrative to explore themes of self-acceptance and identity, framing Pikachu's refusal as an act of defiance against external pressure. In the games, players can prevent evolution by pressing the B button during the transformation sequence. This mechanic allows trainers to keep Pokémon in their base forms indefinitely, preserving movesets or aesthetic preferences over raw power. Some competitive players intentionally avoid evolving certain Pokémon to access better move pools or to take advantage of items like Eviolite, which boosts the defenses of unevolved Pokémon. This strategic use of unevolved forms shows that evolution is not always the optimal choice, creating situations where staying weak is actually stronger. The Everstone item allows players to permanently prevent a Pokémon from evolving by having it hold the stone. This tool gives players full control over evolution, ensuring that accidental transformations do not occur during casual play. The Everstone is particularly useful for breeding, as it passes down specific traits or forms to offspring without triggering unwanted evolutions. This item represents player agency, allowing trainers to shape their team according to personal preference rather than being forced down predetermined evolutionary paths. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how trading affects evolution beyond the simple trigger of changing an ownership. The in-universe explanation describes trait evolution as the Pokémon's body scrambling and reassembling mid-transfer, a process that sounds terrifying when examined closely. Pokémon are converted into digital data, transmitted across wireless or cable connections, and then reconstructed on the receiving end. During this brief moment of data transfer, certain species undergo a genetic reorganization that triggers evolution. The lore frames this as the Pokémon reacting to the energy pulse of the transfer, their bodies interpreting the signal as a catalyst for transformation. This explanation raises unsettling questions about the nature of Pokémon existence and consciousness. Are Pokémon truly converted into data, or is the Pokéball technology simply a storage device? If they are digitized, do they experience awareness during the transfer, or are they effectively unconscious? The games never fully answer these questions, leaving the mechanics of Pokémon storage and transfer deliberately ambiguous. Trait evolution adds another layer to this mystery, suggesting that the transfer process itself is traumatic or intense enough to cause physical transformation. Some Pokédex entries hint that a Pokémon's hopes and dreams can influence its evolution, suggesting that psychological factors play a role in transformation. Bagon, for example, is described as obsessing over flight, jumping off cliffs repeatedly in an attempt to develop wings. Its behavior anticipates its eventual evolution into Shelgon and then Salamence, creatures that gain the ability to fly. The Pokédex frames this as genetic memory, information stored in Bagon's DNA that drives it toward behaviors that will eventually enable its transformation. The implication is that Bagon knows on some instinctual level what it is meant to become, even before it reaches the level required for evolution. This psychological component to evolution suggests that a Pokémon's inner state matters as much as its physical training. A Bagon that gives up on its dream of flight might never evolve, staying trapped in its earthbound form forever. While the games do not mechanically enforce this idea, the lore treats evolution as a combination of external conditions and internal drive. Pokémon that lack the will to change might resist transformation even when all other requirements are met, creating a narrative space where evolution is not guaranteed, but earned through determination. Across generations, evolution methods have been simplified, changed, or retroactively applied to older Pokémon. Species that once lacked evolutions sometimes receive new final forms in later games, revitalizing their competitive viability and renewing player interest. Piloswine, for example, existed as a final evolution for 2 generations before Mamoswine was introduced in Generation 4, retroactively turning Piloswine into a mid-stage form. This addition required players to rethink how they used Piloswine, transforming it from an endpoint into a stepping stone toward greater power. Similarly, Pokémon like Magneton and Raiden gained evolutions in later generations, changing their status within the evolutionary hierarchy. These additions show that evolution is not a fixed system, but a flexible framework that developers can expand and modify over time. Older Pokémon benefit from these updates, remaining relevant in new generations, rather than being left behind as power creep advances. The franchise's willingness to revisit and revise evolution chains ensures that even early generation Pokémon can remain competitively viable decades after their initial release. Some evolution methods have become more convoluted over time, introducing increasingly bizarre requirements that test player knowledge and dedication. Galarian Yamask, as mentioned earlier, requires taking at least 49 points of damage and then passing under a specific stone arch, creating one of the most obscure evolution triggers in the franchise. Runerigus, the resulting evolution, represents a reward for players who either stumble upon the method by accident or invest time in researching the exact conditions. This obscurity has led to widespread reliance on online guides and community knowledge, turning evolution into a collaborative puzzle rather than a solo discovery. The trend toward more complex evolution methods reflects the franchise's attempt to keep longtime players engaged by introducing challenges that go beyond simple leveling. Casual players might miss these evolutions entirely, treating them as optional post-game content rather than essential catches. Hardcore completionists, however, see these obscure methods as tests of dedication, proving their mastery of the game's systems through successful completion. This dual approach allows the franchise to serve both audiences, offering straightforward evolutions for casual enjoyment and intricate puzzles for dedicated fans. Evolution in the Pokémon trading card game operates under different rules than the video games, creating alternate systems that simplify or complicate transformation depending on the card set. Basic Pokémon represent unevolved forms, Stage 1 cards represent first evolutions, and Stage 2 cards represent final evolutions. Players build decks around these stages, playing basic Pokémon first, and then layering evolution cards on top of them to power up their fighters. This turn-based evolution system mirrors the video game leveling process, but condenses it into discrete card plays rather than gradual stat increases. Some TCG mechanics introduce shortcuts that bypass normal evolution paths. Ultra-style evolution allows a certain Pokémon to jump directly from basic to Stage 2, skipping the middle stage entirely. This mechanic echoes in-game shortcuts like evolution stones, which allow players to evolve Pokémon immediately without leveling. The TCG also features baby Pokémon as a separate card type that counts as basic, but can still evolve into other basics, bending the usual rule that basic Pokémon do not come from anything. These variations show how different game formats adapt evolution to fit their unique mechanical constraints. Spin-off games introduce their own evolution systems, sometimes requiring players to collect multiple copies of the same item or meet time-limited challenges to trigger transformation. Pokémon Mystery Dungeon, for example, treats evolution as a post-game reward, preventing players from evolving their starter Pokémon until after the main story concludes. This narrative restriction emphasizes the protagonist's journey as an individual rather than a constantly changing form, treating evolution as a capstone moment rather than an incremental process. The delayed evolution creates emotional weight, making the transformation feel earned and significant. Other spin-offs gamify evolution by tying it to resource collection or mini-game performance. Pokémon Ranger might require players to complete specific missions or capture certain numbers of Pokémon before evolution becomes available. Mobile games like Pokémon Go simplify evolution to a resource bar, requiring players to collect candy by catching duplicates of the same species. Despite these mechanical differences, all versions respect core concepts like friendship, time of day, and special items as modifiers that influence when and how evolution occurs. This consistency across formats ensures that evolution remains recognizable even when adapted to new gameplay styles. The sheer variety of evolution methods reflects the franchise's experimental nature, constantly testing new ideas and iterating on old ones. From simple level-ups to complex multi-condition puzzles, evolution has grown from a straightforward mechanic into a rich system with dozens of unique triggers. Each new generation introduces fresh methods, ensuring that evolution never becomes stale or predictable. This ongoing innovation keeps players engaged, offering new challenges and discoveries even for those who have played every previous game. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how evolution is portrayed in different media. The anime treats evolution as a dramatic, often emotional event, with extended transformation sequences that emphasize the significance of the change. Pokémon glow with energy, their bodies reshaping in slow motion as music swells and other characters watch in awe. This theatrical presentation frames evolution as a milestone moment, a turning point in the Pokemon's journey that deserves special attention. The anime often ties evolution to character development, using transformation as a metaphor for personal growth and overcoming challenges. In contrast, the games treat evolution as a quick, functional process, a brief animation that plays when conditions are met. The transformation happens in seconds, with minimal fanfare beyond a short jingle and a sprite change. This efficiency reflects the game's focus on mechanics over narrative, prioritizing smooth gameplay over cinematic spectacle. Players who evolve dozens of Pokémon over the course of a playthrough might skip the evolution animation entirely, treating it as a routine event rather than a special occasion. The difference between anime and game portrayals shows how medium shapes perception, with each format emphasizing different aspects of the same mechanic. The Pokémon manga offers yet another interpretation, sometimes depicting evolution as painful or distressing rather than celebratory. Certain panels show Pokémon struggling during transformation, their bodies contorting as they shift from one form to another. This darker portrayal aligns more closely with some of the disturbing Pokédex entries, treating evolution as a biological process with real physical consequences. The manga's willingness to explore these uncomfortable aspects gives evolution a sense of weight and gravitas that the more sanitized anime and game versions avoid. Mew occupies a unique position in Pokémon lore as the purported ancestor of all Pokémon species. According to the Pokédex, Mew contains the genetic information of every Pokémon, making it the source from which all other species diverged. This genealogical claim positions Mew at the base of a hypothetical evolutionary tree, the single point from which the entire Pokémon world's biodiversity originated. Fan theories and video essays often map this tree, showing how different types and families might have branched off from Mew over millions of years. Fossil Pokémon are frequently placed as early branches in these speculative trees, representing ancient offshoots that diverged soon after Mew. Species like Kabuto and Aerodactyl become transitional forms, creatures that existed before the modern Pokémon ecosystem fully developed. Their fossil status suggests they went extinct, while other lineages continued to evolve, creating the diverse range of species seen in contemporary Pokémon regions. This framework treats the Pokémon world as having its own natural history, complete with mass extinctions, adaptive radiations, and convergent evolution. Convergent evolution appears throughout the franchise, with different Pokémon developing similar features independently in response to similar environmental pressures. Multiple fire types possess internal flame sacs, despite belonging to completely different evolutionary lineages. This suggests that the ability to produce and contain fire evolved multiple times across unrelated species, each one finding its own solution to the same problem. The parallel development of similar traits implies that the Pokémon world operates under consistent biological rules, where function shapes form regardless of ancestry. Regional variants fit into this framework as examples of ongoing evolution, showing how species adapt to new environments in real time. Alolan forms represent recent divergences, species that migrated to new regions and developed distinct traits within a relatively short time frame. These variants suggest that evolution in the Pokémon world operates on both geological and historical timescales, with some changes taking millions of years and others happening within centuries or decades. The existence of regional forms makes the world feel dynamic and alive, constantly shifting as species adapt to changing conditions. Paradox. Pokémon complicate this evolutionary picture by presenting impossible timelines where ancient and futuristic forms coexist. These creatures blur the line between past, present, and future, treating evolution as a branching tree with infinite possible endpoints. The lore frames them as either prehistoric ancestors or far future descendants, suggesting that the Pokémon seen in contemporary games represent only one possible evolutionary path. Other timelines might produce radically different outcomes, creating alternate versions of familiar species that evolved under different circumstances. This speculative approach to evolution allows the franchise to explore what-if scenarios without committing to permanent changes. Paradox forms exist outside the main timeline, representing possibilities rather than certainties. This narrative flexibility gives developers room to experiment with extreme designs and radical reinterpretations of existing Pokémon, creating forms that would be impossible within the constraints of normal evolution. The existence of these alternate timelines enriches the world, suggesting layers of complexity and depth that extend beyond what players see in the main games. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how community discussions and content creation revolve around evolution. Online tier lists frequently rank evolution methods by weirdness, difficulty, or obscurity, celebrating the franchise's willingness to experiment with bizarre triggers. Videos titled Top 10 Strangest Evolution Methods or Evolution Methods You Didn't Know Existed accumulate millions of views, showing widespread fascination with the system's complexity. These discussions keep evolution relevant in community discourse, ensuring that even casual players remain aware of the mechanic's depth. Fan theories about evolution lore generate extensive debate, with players interpreting Pokédex entries as evidence of long-term natural evolution. The connection between Kabuto and modern bug types, for example, sparks discussions about which contemporary species might descend from ancient fossils. These speculative genealogies create unofficial evolutionary trees that map the entire Pokémon world's biodiversity, treating the franchise as a functioning ecosystem with its own history. The community's willingness to engage with these ideas shows that players view Pokémon as more than just collectible creatures, treating them as part of a coherent biological system. Content creators often build entire channels around exploring evolution mechanics, Pokédex lore, and competitive strategy. These videos provide educational content that helps players understand complex systems, breaking down obscure evolution methods into digestible explanations. The popularity of this content demonstrates that evolution remains a compelling topic even decades after the franchise's debut, with new generations of players discovering the system's intricacies for the first time. The community's ongoing engagement ensures that evolution stays relevant, constantly reinterpreted and rediscovered through fresh perspectives. Some evolution methods require players to possess specific knowledge or perform actions that feel almost like cheat codes. K's upside-down requirement, for example, would be nearly impossible to discover without external help, as nothing in the game hints that flipping the console is necessary. Players who stumble upon this method by accident often describe the experience as magical, a moment of pure discovery that feels like unlocking a hidden secret. These rare moments of genuine surprise become memorable highlights, stories that players share with friends and online communities. The obscurity of certain evolution methods creates a sense of mystery and depth, suggesting that the Pokémon world contains secrets waiting to be uncovered. Players who invest time in experimenting with different conditions sometimes discover evolution triggers that official guides never mention, turning them into community experts who share their findings online. This collaborative knowledge building reinforces the social aspect of Pokémon, encouraging players to work together to solve puzzles and complete their Pokédex. Evolution remains one of the franchise's most enduring mechanics, a system that has grown and evolved alongside the games themselves. From simple level-ups in Generation 1 to multi-condition puzzles in recent releases, Evolution continues to surprise and challenge players. The variety of methods ensures that no two Pokémon feel exactly the same, each one carrying its own unique requirements and story. This diversity keeps the mechanic fresh, preventing it from becoming repetitive even after hundreds of hours of gameplay. The emotional weight of Evolution varies, depending on the player's attachment to their Pokémon. For some, Evolution is a routine mechanical process, a means to an end in the pursuit of competitive viability. For others, Evolution represents a significant milestone, a transformation that marks progress and growth. The franchise accommodates both perspectives, allowing players to engage with Evolution on their own terms. Whether treated as a strategic tool or a narrative moment, Evolution remains central to the Pokémon experience, a constant reminder that change is both inevitable and necessary. As we drift toward the end of tonight's journey, we encounter one final reflection on what Evolution represents within the Pokémon world. Evolution is not aging, not maturity, and not always improvement. It is transformation, a rewriting of the self that changes everything while leaving the core intact. A Pokémon that evolves remains the same individual, carrying the same memories and personality, but inhabits a fundamentally different body. This paradox sits at the heart of the Evolution system, treating change as both profound and superficial, external and internal. The franchise uses Evolution to explore themes of identity, growth, and potential. Characters in the anime and games often grapple with whether to evolve their Pokémon, weighing the benefits of increased power against the loss of their current form. These narratives frame Evolution as a choice, one that carries consequences beyond simple stat changes. The decision to evolve becomes a test of values, forcing trainers to consider what they prioritize: strength, aesthetics, nostalgia, or strategy. Evolution also serves as a metaphor for the player's own journey through the game. As Pokémon grow and transform, so too does the player's understanding of the game's systems and strategies. Early evolutions teach basic mechanics, while late-game evolutions reward patience and dedication. The progression from weak starter to powerful final form mirrors the player's progression from novice to expert, treating Evolution as both a mechanical process and a narrative arc. The system's flexibility allows for endless variation and experimentation, ensuring that Evolution never becomes stale. Each new generation introduces fresh ideas, from environmental triggers to team composition requirements, keeping the mechanic dynamic and unpredictable. This ongoing innovation reflects the franchise's commitment to growth, treating Evolution as a living system that changes alongside player expectations and technological capabilities. Evolution in Pokémon is ultimately about possibility, the potential for something small and weak to become large and powerful. It is a promise encoded in every base form Pokémon, a guarantee that investment and care will yield tangible results. This optimistic framework makes Evolution one of the most universally beloved mechanics in gaming, a system that rewards patience, strategy, and emotional connection in equal measure. The transformation from Caterpie to Butterfree, from Magikarp to Gyarados, from Eevee to any of its many forms, represents hope made manifest, change embraced rather than feared. The distinction between evolution and aging creates fascinating edge cases within the Pokémon world. elderly, unevolved Pokémon appear throughout the anime, individuals who have lived long lives without ever transforming. These creatures prove that evolution is not an inevitable consequence of time, but a separate process triggered by specific conditions. A Pikachu can live for decades without becoming Raichu, remaining in its base form indefinitely if never exposed to a Thunderstone. This separation between chronological age and evolutionary stage emphasizes that transformation is optional rather than mandatory, a path that can be chosen or rejected. Conversely, newly evolved Pokémon sometimes behave childishly despite their powerful adult forms. A Charizard might throw tantrums, like a spoiled Charmander, showing that emotional maturity does not automatically accompany physical transformation. The anime frequently explores this disconnect, featuring recently evolved Pokémon struggling to control their new bodies, or reverting to juvenile behaviors despite their imposing appearances. This narrative choice reinforces the idea that evolution changes form, but not necessarily personality, treating transformation as superficial rather than fundamental. The lore surrounding certain legendary trios suggests that evolution played a role in their creation or categorization. The legendary birds of Kanto, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres represent elemental mastery, but show no signs of having evolved from lesser forms. Their singular status implies they were created fully formed, either through divine intervention or as spontaneous manifestations of natural forces. This origin story contrasts with common Pokémon, whose existence depends on evolutionary lineages stretching back millions of years. Legendaries exist outside the normal rules, neither evolving nor producing offspring in most cases. Some legendary Pokémon do evolve, complicating the rule that mythical beings remain static. Cosmog evolves into Cosmoem, and then into either Solgaleo or Lunala, depending on the game version, creating a legendary evolution line that mirrors common Pokémon mechanics. This exception proves that even the most powerful creatures can undergo transformation, suggesting that evolution is a universal force affecting all life regardless of status. The evolution of Cosmog carries narrative weight tied to the game's plot and treated as a significant event rather than a routine occurrence. Type Null represents another legendary evolution, transforming into Silvally when friendship reaches a high enough level. This evolution mirrors the friendship mechanics of common Pokémon like Golbat and Chansey, applying the same emotional bond requirement to a creature designed to be a synthetic legendary. The parallel treatment suggests that even artificially created Pokémon follow natural evolutionary rules, their lab-grown origins not exempting them from the systems that govern organic life. Silvally's evolution through friendship emphasizes the theme of connection and trust, framing transformation as a reward for companionship even in beings designed for combat. Regional evolution differences extend beyond simple type changes, sometimes altering the entire evolution method. Exeggutor evolves into Exeggutor using a leaf stone in most regions, but Alolan Exeggutor appears when Exeggutor is exposed to intense sunlight and tropical conditions instead. This regional variation creates divergent evolution paths where the same base form requires completely different triggers depending on location. Players must understand these regional quirks to complete their Pokédex, tracking which evolution methods apply in which games and regions. Galarian Farfetch'd introduces a combat-based evolution requirement not seen in its Cantonian counterpart. To evolve into Sirfetch'd, Galarian Farfetch'd must land 3 critical hits in a single battle, turning evolution into a challenge of luck and skill. This requirement forces players to engage with battle mechanics more deeply, using items and moves that increase critical hit rates to maximize their chances. The specificity of the condition makes Surfetched feel earned rather than given, rewarding players who invest effort into understanding combat systems. The critical hit requirement for Surfetched creates memorable moments where players watch their far-fetched land the final required crit and immediately evolve mid-battle. This dynamic transformation adds excitement to otherwise routine encounters, turning grinding into an engaging challenge. Players who struggle to land 3 crits in one battle develop strategies involving leak-holding far-fetched and crit-boosting moves, treating evolution as a puzzle to solve rather than a passive process. The mechanic encourages experimentation and adaptation, skills that transfer to other aspects of competitive play. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how evolution affects a Pokemon's relationship with its trainer. Some players report feeling nostalgic or even reluctant when their Pokemon evolve, missing the appearance or personality of the base form. This emotional attachment to specific forms explains why some trainers intentionally prevent evolution, preferring to keep their Pokemon in a familiar state rather than pushing toward maximum power. The option to delay or cancel evolution respects these feelings, allowing players to prioritize aesthetic or sentimental preferences over competitive optimization. The Everstone's role in preventing evolution extends beyond simple gameplay convenience. In breeding contexts, the Everstone passes down the parent's nature to offspring, creating a dual function that serves both aesthetic and strategic purposes. Breeders use Everstones to maintain specific traits across generations, while also preventing accidental evolutions during the hatching and leveling process. This multifunctional tool demonstrates how evolution mechanics intersect with other game systems, creating layers of strategy that extend beyond simple transformation triggers. Some Pokemon change their elemental typing completely upon evolution, creating dramatic shifts in strengths and weaknesses. Eevee's various evolutions represent the most extreme examples, with a single normal type base form branching into 8 completely different types. Each evolution gains resistances and vulnerabilities specific to its new type, fundamentally altering how the Pokemon functions in battle. Vaporeon resists fire and steel, but fears grass and electric, while Jolteon resists electric and flying, but dreads ground-type attacks. These type changes force players to rethink team composition and strategy whenever an evolution occurs. Azurill presents one of the strangest type changes in the franchise, starting as a normal and fairy type and evolving into Marill, a pure water type in earlier generations, or water and fairy in later ones. This shift means Azurill loses its normal typing entirely upon evolution, gaining water instead. The change affects matchups and resistances, creating a rare case where evolution removes a type rather than adding or substituting it. Players who expect their Azurill to retain normal typing through evolution encounter surprise when they discover Marill's different typing, forcing mid-game strategy adjustments. Evolution sometimes grants access to abilities that were completely unavailable in the base form, creating power spikes that go beyond simple stat increases. Shedinja, the hollow husk left behind when Nincada evolves into Ninjask, possesses the unique ability Wonder Guard, which makes it immune to all damage except super effective attacks. This ability transforms Shedinja from a weak leftover into a specialized wall capable of completely shutting down certain team compositions. The evolution from Nincada creates 2 Pokemon simultaneously, Ninjask and Shedinja, if the player has an empty party slot and a spare Pokeball, introducing a unique branching evolution that produces multiple outcomes from a single trigger. The dual evolution of Nincada represents one of the most unusual mechanics in the franchise, requiring players to understand obscure conditions to obtain Shedinja. Many casual players evolve Ninkata without realizing they missed the opportunity to receive Shedinja, discovering the Husk Pokémon only later through online research or guides. This hidden condition creates a sense of secret knowledge, rewarding players who explore mechanics thoroughly or engage with community resources. The surprise of discovering Shedinja after the fact often prompts players to seek out another Ninkata to evolve correctly, turning the mechanic into a repeatable challenge. Shedinja's 1 HP stat combined with Wonder Guard creates a unique defensive profile where traditional damage calculations become irrelevant. Only super effective moves, status conditions, weather damage, and entry hazards can harm Shedinja, making it invulnerable to entire categories of attacks. This extreme specialization turns Shedinja into a meta-dependent Pokémon, incredibly powerful against teams lacking super effective coverage, but useless against prepared opponents. The evolution from Ninkata to Shedinja represents a philosophical shift from normal combat rules to niche puzzle solving, where success depends on exploiting opponents' weaknesses rather than overwhelming them with power. Evolution affects friendship values in complex ways, with some Pokémon requiring maximum happiness, while others simply need to exceed a threshold. Riolu evolves into Lucario only during the day when friendship is sufficiently high, combining temporal and emotional requirements. Budeau follows a similar pattern, evolving into Roselia during the day with high friendship. These combined conditions create multi-layered puzzles where players must manage both relationship building and timing, ensuring that all requirements align during the correct window. Missing the time window delays evolution, forcing players to wait another in-game day cycle before trying again. Nighttime friendship evolutions create the mirror image, with Pokémon like Chingling requiring high friendship and nighttime conditions to evolve into Chimeiko. The day-night split suggests that certain species are attuned to specific times, their biological rhythms influencing when transformation can occur. This temporal sensitivity adds realism to the evolution system, treating Pokémon as creatures with circadian patterns that affect their development. Players who grind levels during the wrong time of day find themselves stuck, their Pokémon refusing to evolve despite maxed friendship stats. The friendship system itself operates invisibly, tracking relationship strength through hidden point values that increase or decrease based on player actions. Walking with a Pokémon, using it in battles, feeding it vitamins, and leveling it up all build friendship, while allowing it to faint, using bitter healing items, or depositing it in storage reduce happiness. This invisible stat creates a layer of management that rewards attentive players while punishing those who neglect their team. Casual players sometimes discover that their Pokémon has low friendship only when evolution fails, prompting them to adjust their playstyle and treat their team with more care. Some items accelerate friendship growth, allowing players to quickly maximize happiness without extensive grinding. The Soothe Bell doubles the friendship points gained from walking and battling, cutting the time required to reach evolution thresholds in half. Friendship berries like Greppa and Pomeg lower stats, but drastically increase happiness, creating a trade-off between immediate power and long-term evolution potential. These tools give players agency over friendship evolution, allowing them to control when transformation occurs rather than waiting passively for invisible stats to accumulate. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how evolution stones have changed across generations. In early games, stones were rare and finite, forcing players to choose carefully which Pokémon to evolve and which to leave behind. Running out of fire stones. Before evolving, both Vulpix and Growlithe created difficult choices, where players had to prioritize one evolution over another. This scarcity added weight to stone-based evolution, making each transformation feel significant and irreversible. Later generations introduced infinite stone sources through repeatable methods, allowing players to evolve as many Pokémon as they want without resource anxiety. The shift toward abundance prioritizes accessibility over scarcity, ensuring that players never feel locked out of evolutions due to poor planning. While this change improves player experience, it also reduces the strategic tension that made stone evolutions feel meaningful in early games. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed drifting through these quiet moments, there's another video waiting on the left of your screen. Let it play while you rest. You might discover something gentle before sleep takes you again.